Welcome to the Safety Map podcast. I'm Alyssa Decker, founder and developer of the Safety Map framework. And this is where we talk about how safety, not performance, is the foundation of healing. We're talking about healing that goes beyond coping skills and into structural change. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome, welcome. In this very first episode of the Safety Map podcast, we're going to talk about how your body makes sense, how your body is oriented toward safety. And for some of you, this is probably going to explain a few things that have felt a little confusing for a long time. I know it certainly did for me. So before we get started talking about safety and what safety means or what it looks like or how it affects virtually everything your body does, I want you to take a moment and just notice what is happening in your body right now as we begin to talk about safety. Does your body brace? Is it relaxed? Does the introduction of the idea that safety is the key organizing principle for your body relax you? Or does it cause more stress? Are your shoulders rising up around your ears? Or are they dropping? I know for me, for a very long time, I probably would have tensed up if someone had suggested to me that all my body was doing was trying to keep me safe. And the reason for that was I had no idea what safety actually looked like or felt like in my body. I didn't have a frame of reference for safety, which ironically makes safety feel unsafe because things that are unfamiliar to your body tend to feel unsafe until you have some experience with them. Now, if you're like me and you're thinking, do I even know what safety feels like? Does my body even recognize safety? I want you to know right off the bat that there is no shame in that. I like to think of it as something that you simply have no experience with. Think about it this way. If you asked me, hey, Alyssa, do you like jackfruit? I would, in all honesty, have to look right back at you and say, I do not know. Because I have personally never tasted jackfruit. I've smelled it. I've seen it in the grocery store. I've seen recipes for using jackfruit. I've heard from other people who tasted jackfruit and loved the experience. And I've heard from people who tasted it and thought it was one of the worst things they had ever put in their mouths. But I personally do not have the experience that allows me to determine if I like jackfruit. The same thing is true of safety. It's easy for us to assume, because we hear this a lot on social media and all over the internet, that if your body encounters safety, that you will recognize it, that you will understand that you are safe when you're safe. That isn't always the case. If you grew up in an environment where your body did not learn to recognize safety because safety was rarely or never present, your adult body may still have no reference. It might have no marker, no felt experience for what safety is. That is okay. That's not a moral failure. That's not a right or wrong. That's not a better than or less than. It simply is. In the same way that you're not judging me for not knowing what jackfruit tastes like because I simply haven't had that experience, there is no need to apply judgment to yourself because you have not experienced what safety feels like. Now, when I use the word safety, what am I talking about? Let's define that really clearly here before we move on, because this is important to make sure that we're all coming from the same perspective here and we're all talking about the same thing. When I say safety, what I do not mean is nothing is currently on fire. There have been many points in my life when people asked me how I was doing and I would respond with, I'm fine, or things are great. But really what I meant was nothing is on fire. Nothing is currently burning down. There's no immediate catastrophe. There's no emergency pending. Things seem relatively calm. What I did not mean was I'm calm on the inside. My body is relaxed. I am deeply at peace. I feel settled. My body's not bracing. I didn't mean any of those things. Again, because I didn't have a reference point for what was actually possible or what safety felt like, I equated, I'm great, I'm fine, with nothing is on fire. Now, let's talk about an actual definition of safety here, because we're raising the bar quite a bit from nothing is on fire to this definition of safety. Safety means no measurable threat exists to my identity, my connection, or my aliveness. And, that's a very important and I am free to express myself without rejection or disconnection. Okay, let me repeat that. Safety means that no measurable threat exists to my aliveness, my connection, or my identity, and I am free to express myself without rejection or disconnection. Now, I don't know about you, but there was definitely a time in my life when I would have heard that definition and I would have gone, wait, what? What did you just say? I don't understand, right? It would have probably immediately put me in some brain fog or at least some mild confusion because, again, I didn't have a reference point for what that felt like. I couldn't imagine what that kind of safety would feel like in my body. That definition of safety is the definition of safety that your body uses. That is how your body is oriented. In other words, everything that your body does, your nervous system, your fight or flight responses, your level of regulation or dysregulation at any particular moment, all of that is carefully orchestrated by your body to move you closer as possible to safety. Safety as in no meaningful threat exists to my aliveness, identity, or connection. And I'm free to express myself without rejection or disconnection. So notice what's happening there in that definition. No threat exists to my aliveness, identity, or connection, meaning nothing is currently happening that threatens any of those things. And not only that, but I can fully express myself without fearing that I will be rejected or I will be disconnected. So it's a state of safety and I can express myself and maintain that state of safety. In other words, my body does not need to brace in this moment. My body does not need to brace for the next thing when I am safe. Some of us don't know what it's like to live without bracing. Some of us don't know what our body feels like if we are not bracing. And if you're here and you're like, I am with you, I do not know what that feels like, you're in the right place because we're going to dig into this and we're going to discover together here on this podcast. Now, let's go just one layer deeper here. I want to introduce to you the concept of the safety map. Of course, this is called the Safety Map Podcast, and so you're probably wondering, well, what in the world is a safety map? Let's talk about it. The safety map is the answer to the question, how does my body know? How does my body decide not only what is safe, but also what threats exist, right? If safety is no meaningful threat exists to my aliveness, connection, or identity, how does my body know that? How does it determine what is a threat and what is not? This is where your safety map comes in. Your safety map is the way your nervous system predicts what is safe and what is not. And it does so long before you think any of this. Your safety map is your own internal diagram of what is safe and what is not. And it's using historical data. What has been safe for you in the past? what has been the safest option available to you in the past, and it predicts future threats or potential threats based on that data. In other words, your body says we did this thing before and we survived, therefore we can do the same thing again and we will survive again. And so your body is constantly running these calculations and predictions that are designed to move you to safety or to get you as close as possible to safety. And these predictions, these threat predictions, oftentimes organize our behaviors. We have things that we do that we don't consciously think about doing, or we have things that we want to not do and we find ourselves doing them anyway. And the driver behind those things is the threat prediction from our safety map. Your safety map is always scanning. And much as it might feel like it sometimes, it is not broken. It is predictive. It is using all of the data at its disposal to keep you as safe as it possibly can. There were many, many years in my life, decades of my life, where I thought I was calm. I believed I was safe. I thought I was fine because I was functioning, because I was showing up, because I was performing the tasks that I needed to perform to get through my day. I was caring for my children. I was educating my children. I was putting food on the table. I was meeting the demands of my clients. And at the time, I interpreted that as I'm safe. I'm able to stay calm. I'm not losing my ever-loving mind all the time. Sometimes, absolutely yes. But I'm functioning. I'm getting through the day. I'm articulate. I have friendships. I was interpreting all of that as I'm fine. I'm safe. Everything's good. What I was missing was the underneath layer, the underlying layer, which was my system was constantly braced for the next threat, the next danger, the next thing lurking around the corner. I never fully relaxed internally because I knew, my body knew, the next threat can pop up immediately out of nowhere. And the best thing I can do is stay braced and on edge and prepared because I just know it's coming. Going back to our definition of safety, safety is no measurable threat exists to my aliveness, my connection, or my identity. None of those were true for me in those decades where I thought I was safe. I thought I was okay. I thought I was calm enough, right? And back to our definition, I am able to express myself without rejection or disconnection. That also was absolutely not true of me for decades. So I look at that now and I think, well, no wonder my body was braced all of the time. No wonder my system had this constant internal tension because my safety map was predicting threat around every corner, and it was doing its best to keep me safe, to keep me alert, to keep me prepared so that I could respond in the safest possible way to the looming or impending threat. Now, just like with any threat prediction, some of them happened exactly as predicted. Some of them never materialized, but it didn't matter. My system was braced anyway because its job was to keep me safe. Your body makes sense. Your body makes perfect sense. And as we dig in deeper here on this podcast in upcoming conversations, you will have an opportunity to see and to understand exactly what your system is doing, how beautifully it's functioning, how perfectly it's working to keep you safe. And we're going to talk about how we can begin to create safety for ourselves, how we can begin to rewrite or recalibrate some of those threat predictions in a way that allows that bracing to drop, in a way that allows your body to relax and your internal system to exhale just a little bit because the threat prediction has changed. When I spend time with clients, one of the things that I hear frequently is, I keep doing this thing, or I want to do this thing. I have no idea why I can't just do the thing I know to do, or why I can't stop doing the thing that I know is not helping. It's not taking me closer to my goal, but I feel stuck. I also hear a lot from clients, I was calm, I stayed regulated, I did my deep breathing, my hands stopped shaking, and I stayed stuck. Nothing has changed. All of that makes perfect sense when you look at it through the lens of your body is trying to protect you. Your body is keeping you safe by predicting threats and by directing you to the course of action or the nervous system response, or the verbal response, or the behavioral response that it predicts has the highest probability of keeping you safe. Remember that first part of the definition of safety? Safety is no meaningful threat exists to my aliveness. In other words, your body's number one priority, your body's number one job is to keep you alive. Breath in your lungs, heart beating. That's it. And your body is designed, your system is designed to focus on that at times to the exclusion of comfort or happiness or even peace. Why? Because if your body has to choose between you being happy and you being alive, guess what it's going to choose? Only one of those things, or the absence of one of those things, is life-threatening, right? Your body's ranking predictions. Loss of happiness is a much lower threat than loss of aliveness. So sometimes it can feel like you are at war with your own body because you just want to be happy and your body keeps sending you this anxiety. Or you just want to be at peace and your body just keeps sending you this emotional chaos. Or you just want to have a moment of rest and your body is keeping you braced and on high alert. That's because your body is not primarily focused on your comfort. It's primarily focused on your safety. And you know, when we really look at that deeply, when we examine that, isn't it so encouraging to realize my body has been doing this massive job, this hugely important thing of keeping me alive. The fact that you are here listening to this podcast, asking these questions and exploring this topic with me tells me your body has succeeded at its primary mission. It's working perfectly. Your body makes sense. Now, if I can leave you with just one thought, if I could summarize this for you in one key idea to reflect on this week, it would be this. Your system may have learned to brace. Your system may have learned to anticipate threat around every corner. Your system may not have learned how to experience safety because safety wasn't present. All of that is correct. All of that is right. All of that is normal. And it is possible to introduce your body to safety in a way that allows the bracing to relax, in a way that allows the behavior to reorganize, in a way that allows you to get exactly where you've been trying to get this whole time. We're going to get into that more in the next episode. Thank you so much for being here with me in this flagship episode of the Safety Map podcast. If you would like to connect and explore this concept further in community with other people who are doing the same, I invite you to join the Safety Map podcast Facebook group. The link is in the podcast description. I hang out there with you several times a week to ask questions, give you things to think about, and answer your questions as well. So that's all for today. I will see you soon in the next episode of the Safety Map podcast.